Hello, and welcome to Top Deck City. My name is Grim, and today I'm going to show you this deck tech that I have put together here for my latest commander deck, Lubu Master at Arms. Lubu is from Portal Three Kingdoms. This set was released in China, and in English, it was released in Australia. So it didn't really come over to the States, but you can find the English cards online for somewhat of a higher price, especially like the good ones, like Imperial Seal. But Lubu is a mono red commander. He is a human soldier warrior. This is a creature type. He has horsemanship, which means he cannot be blocked by creatures that don't have horsemanship. And he's got the old haste text. He's unaffected by summoning sickness. Now, he is 6 mana for a 4/3, but a 6 mana for a 4/3 unblockable in red seemed like a pretty fun thing to do. Now, I've always been a huge fan of the Dynasty Warrior video games, as well as the Romance of the Three Kingdoms video games, and the story itself. I've seen the movie Redcliffe, which talks about I think it was the Battle of Redcliffe between the Shu and Wei and Wu kingdoms. I think that's how it goes. Anyway, I have quite a lot of Portal 3 Kingdom stuff, surprisingly. I've collected it over the years. At some point, I'm going to do a Oath in the Peach Garden deck with Liu Bei and Guan Yu and Zhang Fei and see how that goes. It's probably going to be horrible because it's going to be mono white, but whatever. But let's talk about my Lubu deck here. So the fact that he's got horsemanship and is unblockable is the main way I'm going to win. The deck kind of Voltron's out, but really what it wants to do is either wants to take extra combats or it wants to double up on Lubu's power or give him double strike or any of those things that would allow me to put somebody over in commander damage like immediately. Yeah, so that's what I'm working with. This first pile of cards here I have though are I'm gonna call them my pet cards because they are the cards that I wanted to include in the deck for flavor purposes. I know people who play competitive commander would say that's stupid, but I play casual, so I want there to be some flavor to the deck because there's going to be a bunch of dumb stuff in here that makes no sense with Lubu thematically. So I wanted to keep some stuff in here. So the first card I have is, of course, his fictional muse, Dao Chan, Artful Beauty. She's 4 mana for a 1/1. She's a legendary creature human advisor. This is not the original card. This was like a from the vault, I think, thing. So this card was like $18, but like the original one's like 200 or something stupid like that. And she is tap to destroy target creature of your choice, then destroy target creature of an opponent's choice. Activate this ability only during your turn before attackers are declared. So I thought this would be a fun little political card, and it's just cute, like seeing Lubu and Dao Chan together, and you can see there's Dong Zhuo in the background, like being all fat and evil. So next, Lubu is historically known for having the greatest horse to ever live, Red Hair, or the Red Hair. So I looked for horses in red, and there's not very many. So the one I chose to represent Red Hair would be Thundermare, because he's got haste, so he's fast, like Red Hair supposedly was. And when he comes into enters the battlefield, he taps down all other creatures, which screws over my own deck. But if Lubu's already dead, and I bring out Thundermare, and then I have, some of my other effects that double or triple damage, he could still chunk somebody pretty good since everything will be tapped, so he'll get through. And of course, I had to add a horse for Dao Chan, so she gets the Lightning Mare. She gets a 2 mana for a 3/1 elemental horse. Spell can't be countered, can't be blocked by blue creatures, and it's pumpable. So you can pay 2 to give it +1/+0 until end of turn. And then I had to include Lubu's historical weapon. Sky Piercer is what its English translation is. And it was technically a halberd, but there aren't halberds in Magic the Gathering. And if there are, I can't think of any that would be worth playing. So I thought Shadow Spear was a good representation of Sky Piercer. Not only does it pump him up, the trample on lifelink is inconsequential since he's got like the horsemanship. Although the lifelink could come in handy. It's that permanents your opponent's control lose hexproof and indestructible until end of turn, which I like because Lubu was a murderer on the battlefield. So I believe it would be pretty cool that you could just take out indestructible creatures with his Sky Piercer. And then the last card, which I originally had in my removal section, but I moved it over here just because it fits the theme here. It's a Rolling Earthquake. It's 1 red and X sorcery. Rolling Earthquake deals X damage to each creature without horsemanship and each player. So it's like Earthquake, except for it doesn't kill Lubu. I thought that was pretty awesome. All right, so speaking of removal, I'm just going to move on to that section. And so here are the removal cards I decided to put in the deck. I didn't put a lot of artifact removal, and this is something that, because I have so many artifacts in here, I don't want to end up screwing myself up. But I did include Shatter Spree. It's like a poor man's Vandal Blast. And I did include Meltdown, which I can, nuke the board for like, all 1-drops, let's say. Get rid of some Soul Rings and things like that. For creature removal, I included the Fleam-Tongue Kavu. I think he's a really underplayed card. He's super good, 4 mana for a 4/2 body, and when he enters the battlefield, deals 4 damage to target creature. So he's pretty good early game for removing pesky stuff, and he's top heavy, so that stacks good with what I'm trying to do with the deck. Soulseer, this uncommon from M21 I thought was one of the best uncommons in the set. 3 mana, instant speed, 5 damage to target creature or planeswalker. That permanent loses indestructible until end of turn. I thought that was huge because it's a god killer. And, planeswalkers are a thing. And red sort of deals with them okay. And I thought this was a good addition. Chaos Warp, Old Faithful, enchantment removal, planeswalker removal, land removal in red just to get rid of something that is just annoying, and you got to take care of it. So yeah, Chaos Warp. On the mass removal, I included Magma Quake, which I recently discovered. I know this card's been around for a while, but I'd always forgotten that the card was instant speed. So an instant speed board wipe in red is super cool. X damage each creature with flying and each planeswalker. Now I could kill Lubu with that, but I do have some protection in the deck, which we'll get to. So I'm not too worried about Magma Quaking Lubu off the battlefield. Of course, Blasphemous Act. It's still standby since it got reprinted in Commander Legends. The price has been so low that it is worth buying a bunch of, especially if you build as many decks as I do. And then Star of Extinction, and that's just another Planeswalker removal, as well as it'll combo with some other stuff in the deck as far as like the multiple damage, which we'll get to. And then it's not really removal, but it is kind of a win condition. Well, it is removal and it is a win condition. And Mob Rule, my faithful Mob Rule that I put in just about every red deck. You never know when you'll need it, and you could just completely swing the game in one direction. And so that's why it's there. Next, I'm going to move on to my ramp, which is pretty silly in this deck. Don't think I've ever put this many ramp cards in a deck before, but because Lubu is 6 and he is essentially my win con, he has to be on the battlefield. So I expect him to get targeted and killed quite often. And during the time he's dead, I need to ramp myself back up. So I went with Expedition Map, and I chose this specifically because there's a couple of lands in the deck that I specifically want to go find. Valakut being one of them, and Flamekin Village being the other. So being able to go get a specific land I thought was pretty useful. Wayfarer's Bauble, pretty standard land ramp. Solemn Simulacrum, land ramp card draw. Burnished Heart, some more land ramp. Sol Ring. Yep, I'm falling into the trap here of including Sol Ring in decks again. I did build one where I didn't need it, but and I say that knowing full well that every deck can use a Sol Ring for the most part. But this particular deck definitely needs a Sol Ring. I usually include a Sol Ring in every mono red or mono white or Boros or Mardu deck I build or Rakdos deck I build. Those colors are so screwed mana wise that they need Sol Rings. Arcane Signet. That's a foil one too, but you can't tell because I have the stupid matte sleeves on it. Fire Diamond, because why not? Mind Stone. Rampant Card Draw. Thran Dynamo. I had Hedron Archive in here, and then I ended up cutting it, even though the card draw was nice. When we get to the card draw section, you'll see why. I didn't think it was that necessary, that one extra or one extra card draw card. I thought actually having a 4-drop that taps for 3 would be more useful, so that's why I kept Thran Dynamo in. Impulsive Pilferer. Here's a guy that I'll probably kill on accident on my own turn. But he comes in and makes treasure, and then you can encore him to make more treasure. So I thought that was pretty useful. Curse of Opulence. Curse somebody down. Force other people to attack them. So it's kind of a defensive card. You know, it's a subjective defensive card. But, you know, adding gold is nice. Even though you are technically helping your opponents, hopefully they're hurting the person that's cursed. Geosurge. This was a card that I believe I saw on the Professor's channel. And I was like, how did I never see this card? And the answer is I don't have a lot of new Phyrexian cards. So I just never saw it. But yeah, 4 mana to get 7, I believe, right? Yeah, 3, 6, 7. Yeah, to get 7 that you can only spend on creatures and artifacts, I thought was awesome. So that lets me put possibly Lubu out on turn 3, which is 5 commander damage to somebody or 4 commander damage to somebody right away. Assuming I get like at least 1 ramp card in turns 1 or 2. Chandra, Torch of Defiance. This one's from the Collector Chandra Spellbook one. And this was my foil in that pack too, but you can't really see it. But she is foil. And yeah, she's pay 4, +1, exile top card of your library. You may cast that card. If you don't, Chandra Torch of Defiance deals 2 damage to each opponent, which is going to be great with all my damage doublers. +1, add to red, so there's the ramp. -3, she deals 4 damage to target creature, so there's some removal. And then -7, you get an emblem with whenever you cast a spell, this emblem deals 5 damage to any target. I've gotten that off twice in my commander career, and the game just snowballs in your favor once that happens. There's nothing really anybody can do at that point unless they take you out like on the next couple of turns. She's just so great. Might be my favorite Planeswalker. I don't know, but this is my favorite Planeswalker card easily, just because it just does everything exactly right in the colors that it is. It's not like busted like Teferi or Oko, even though I do like Oko in Commander. It's just awesome. Next, we have Ruby Medallion. Get that cost reduction on red spells. Fires of Invention. Don't really have a lot of things I'll be doing outside of my own turn, other than maybe Magma Quake. So it seemed like an auto include, especially to help cut down on that recasting of Lubu. And then Cage Sun, just to give him the pump and double up on all my mountain mana. So I thought that was... So that's all my ramp. Next I'm going to do card draw. And my card draw is pretty good. It's actually one of the best card draws I put together in red in a while. So I went with Imperial Recruiter, number 1 for flavor, number 2 because he can go get Dio-Chan, which I thought would be adorable and go fetch her out of the deck. So So yeah, I consider him card draw since he fetches a card. Gamble can let me go get any of my winning pieces, with the stipulation that I could possibly discard it at random. But Lu Bu's the kind of guy to gamble because he's a hothead, and so I figured it was a good addition, both thematically and to help him on a red deck win. Next we have Faithless Looting, another card I just thought was on theme with Lu Bu, and the draw 2 cards, discard 2 cards with the flashback. He's pretty great. Humble Defector, another on theme card because anybody who knows anything about the Romance of the Three Kingdoms, initially Lu Bu killed his original master to join Dong Zhuo, and then he ended up killing Dong Zhuo to take over his kingdom. The guy was just a scumbag who always backstabbed whoever he was in charge of, and I think that was defecting was a part of who his personality was. The dude just always wanted to win, and he didn't care what side he was on when it happened. Court of Ire. Some card draw here, becoming the Monarch, and then you get that chip damage. 2 damage to any target on your turn, and then if you are the Monarch, 7 damage to a player or permanent. So that's pretty cool. I like this card because this deck doesn't really care if you're the Monarch. So having Court of Ire out and doing 2 damage to any target, while having Torbran in play, for example, makes that 4 damage to the player's face, which I thought was pretty cool. I wish it was 4 mana, but it's 5. So Wheel of Misfortune, this is another card like Mob Rule that I just started putting in every single red deck or Boros deck or Mardu deck. It's Wheel of Fortune, but without the $500 price tag. And speaking of Wheel of Fortunes, dun, 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 dun. So this is actually a proxy, but I do own the real one. It's discard your hand. Each player discards their hands, rolls 7 cards. I'm not playing with my real one. It just hit that $500 mark like this week, so I'm just not playing with it. Molten Psyche, kind of a Wheel of Fortune. Each player shuffles the cards from their hand into their library, then draws that many cards. And then if you control 3 or more artifacts, which I probably will, it deals damage to each opponent equal to the number of cards that player has drawn this turn. So I thought this was kind of cool to wheel everybody's hand, and then do some chip damage, which will hopefully be doubled with my doublers. Jessica's Will, super awesome card. 3 mana, sorcery, choose 1. If you control a commander, you can cast a spell, you can choose both. Add 1 red for each card in target opponent's hand, and then exile the top 3 cards of your library. You may play them this turn. So I consider that card draw. Even though it does give ramp 2, but the exile the top 3 cards of your library, you may play them this turn, is the reason why I really like this. And then Sunbird's Invocation, I think, falls into the card draw category. Whenever you cast a spell from your hand, reveal the top X cards of your library, where X is that spell's converted mana cost. You may cast a card revealed this way with converted mana cost X or less without paying its mana cost. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. I guess I should actually call this section not just card draw, but just card advantage. But yeah, so there's that. So now I'm going to do the extra combats. So I have a couple of these in here. Relentless Assault. It's the untap everybody, swing for the fences the second time. Fury of the Horde. Same thing as Relentless Assault, except for you can pitch 2 red cards from your hand and cast it for that instead of paying the 7. And then Port Razor, this new guy from Commander Legends. He's a 4/4 for 5, and whenever he deals combat damage to a player, untap each creature you control. After this combat phase, there's an additional combat phase. Port Razor can't attack a player that's already attacked this turn. So he's got a little bit of a stipulation, but couldn't find my Combat Celebrant, and I thought he was a good replacement. And last I have Morog, Fury of Akum. Minotaur Warrior, 6/6 for 6. Each creature you control gets +1/+0 for each time it has attacked this turn. And then, of course, his landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, if it's your main phase, there's an additional combat phase after this phase. At the beginning of that combat, untap all creatures you control. So, I had Aggravated Assault in the deck, and I cut it at the last minute, and I just think I just didn't think I'd ever get a chance to use it. Whereas these ones, I think all kind of at least these two right away can you use right away, and these two you need at least one round for them to come back around. But I do have some haste effects in the deck, so hopefully, um, I don't know. It could have been a mistake. I might end up putting it back in. We'll see what happens. Because I do have a lot of these, the damage doublers. So starting with Raking Claws from Ikoria, 2-mana instant, target creature gains double strike until end of turn, and you can cycle it, so super versatile. Tamor Battle Rage, target creature gains double strike until end of turn, 2 mana. That creature also gains trample, which is irrelevant for my horsemanship, but still pretty cool. Of course, Embercleave, Flash, 6 mana. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each attacking creature you control. When Embercleave enters the battlefield, attached to the target creature you control, so it's a free equip. And then a equipped creature gets +1/+1 and has double strike and trample. So the double strike is really all what I care about, and the equipping it for free. Then we got Unleash Fury, another new card from M21. Double the power of target creature until end of the turn. So that's fun. And Torbran, the coolest dwarf. Ooh, I don't know, Magnum might be the coolest dwarf now. Well, in the top 2 coolest dwarves, Torbran, Thane of Redfell. He's 4 mana for a 2/4 Dwarven Noble. If a red source you control would deal damage to an opponent or a permanent an opponent controls, it deals that much damage +2 instead. Gratuitous Violence. If a creature you control would deal damage to a creature or player, it deals double that damage to a creature or player instead. I like this one because it's one-sided. I had a Furnace of Wrath in the deck, but I believe that's double-sided, so I didn't want my stuff taking double damage either. Curse of Bloodletting. So it's like a gratuitous violence, I think, but you can only put it on one person. So it's 5 mana, Aura Curse, enchant player. If a source would deal damage to enchanted player, it deals double that damage to that player instead. So this falls into the whole Curse of Opulence thing. It's like, I'll throw this on this guy, and then, hopefully somebody else will tag him, or I could hit him, and then they'll take double damage. Fiery Emancipation was a must-have. This card's just amazing. What else could I say about it? 6 mana and enchantment. If a source you control would deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals triple that damage to that permanent or player instead. It doesn't even care if it's red. So, yeah. Lubu putting people out of the game with Fiery Emancipation. Blackblade Reforged. Felt like a good auto include, since I'm really only ever going to equip it to Lubu. And Heartless Hidetsugu, just to add some fuel to the fire. He deals damage to each player equal to that player's life total rounded down. And then, of course, if I have Gratuitous Violence, that just kills him instantly. So, the last the next part I'm going on to is, I guess I'm going to call these my protection cards for the deck. I started including this category in a lot of decks because people play like mind control effects or like steal effects, and of course removal effects, and you need to protect your board sometimes. And so I put Swiftfoot Boots in here. I had Lightning Greaves and I took it out because I can't cast my instance on Lubu if Lightning Greaves is on him. So that seemed like a counterproductive. So I just kept Swiftfoot Boots. I put in Hammer Nazan to give him indestructible. This is a foil one too, but you can't see it. Maybe you can, I don't know. But yeah, when it enters the battlefield, you can automatically equip it. The equipped creature gets +2/+0 and has indestructible. And then any other equipment that enters the battlefield, you can auto-equip as well. Don't have a ton of equipment in the deck, but the ones I do, I don't want to have to pay to equip. Sword of War and Peace. This was a tough one. I had the 3 swords. I had the Sword of Fire and Ice, which is the blue-red. And then I had Sinew and Steel, which is the black-red. But I thought War and Peace was the best one for this particular deck. So, equipped creature gets +2/+2 and has protection from red and white. The red protection will protect me from like my Stars of Extinction and Blasphemous Act and that stuff. And the protection from white is going to protect me from like Path to Exiles and Swords to Plowshares, which are incredibly common in Commander. But whenever a creature deals combat damage to a player, Sword of War deals damage to that player equal to the number of cards in their hand, and you gain 1 life for each card in your hand. So with my wheel effects, I thought it would be, pretty possible that the player might have 7 cards in their hand when I hit them with it after I wheel or something. So then they're going to take 7 more. And I thought that was a pretty good deal. Plus, it gave me some life gain, which is hard to find in red. And then the last one is Brand. I think this is a card that you kind of just have to keep including in red decks. Gain control of all permanents you own, because if somebody steals my commander here, I'm screwed. And then it also has cycling, which is a nice little cantrip mechanic. So that's my protection. The last category, besides lands, I have here is cards that I like that I've been wanting to use in a red deck and I haven't found a home for, and I said that I'm going to use them. So these first two, Blood Moon, which all non-basic lands are mountains, and Maze of Ith. I've had these cards, which I pulled out of packs in 1994 from an LGS that's no longer there. It was like right on the outskirts of Philadelphia, and I remember this day specifically because it was snowing and my dad it was snowing. It was like in December, I think, and my dad was heading up in that direction to, I don't know, I forget what he was doing exactly, but I said, hey, can I come with? There's a store there that I wanted to check out. So we go there, and the dark had